Mr. Greatstory with today's AskReddit best story. Reddit teachers, what's the weirdest thing a student said to tell me a fun fact about yourself? During French class, a guy in my class said that he liked stabbing children. He meant that he fences, but didn't know the exact translation for that. Students told me that there is a chapter dedicated to him in a dental surgery textbook because of a very rare disorder that he had as a child. I may still have that essay. I teach middle school. This one still takes the cake. That his mom and dad have the same parents. I asked him to clarify because I didn't understand what he was saying, and he said I only have one set of grandparents. They had the same parents. I quickly moved to the next student so no one else would realize that this kid just told the class that his parents were siblings. I talked to him about it the next day in private, and he said that he got it mixed up. His parents don't have the exact same parents. They shared a dad. I felt so much better when the mom called me to let me know her elderly stepfather married her husband's elderly mother. Still weird, but much better. I'm not a teacher, but this guy in my class, named Shane, has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school. He would say I'm Shane, and I'm very hairy. A student, not a teacher, but once we were going around a circle during percussion camp in the front ensemble and my teacher goes, "Hello everyone, my name is," and I have shit my pants as an adult. Definitely one of the weirder ones I've heard. Kid in my kindergarten class said my PP fell off at Disneyland. I didn't ask any follow-up questions. I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the shit on her bed. I asked her to clarify, worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, "I brush my teeth, wash face, and clean bedsheet." Not a teacher, but I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl, who seemed uninterested, said, with no hesitation, that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. A student once told my wife that her daddy had a special device that he had to blow into to start his truck. My dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I'm feeling frustrated. -5-year-old child. I will say the question was, how are you doing this morning? But I could barely keep from laughing out loud. I have vibes. My toddler once told visiting friends that daddy takes long poops. I mean, I was having a flare up and had some extended bathroom sessions. But, dang little dude, not cool. I'm terrified/amused about what he might share at school in the near future. I teach ESL, and every lesson we start the class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce a rule that they need to share good things so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death. Lol. One day, a student said, "I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell. I could see where it was going, but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule. When he just spat out, I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood, a lot of blood." I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, "It's good because I'm still alive." I had a good laugh and agreed, but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high school class, a girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. That he has been to juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he pulled up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle monitor. That was something. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade, we would do this weekly "how was your weekend" sort of thing, where we'd sit in a circle and share. This one girl casually goes, "I found out that my biological father didn't want me," in a super nonchalant tone and everything. I still remember the awkward tension. When I was in my first year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say his/her name, and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name, and the professor interrupted him by asking anon, "Are you related to X?" The guy, yes professor, he is my grandfather. Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy X is, and that he hasn't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was, and on replied he is dead, so the whole class was trying to hold the laughter. It pretty much broke the class that first day. We did one of those 2 truths 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports. I knew this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin, so picked that one. Nope. She had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed, and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one, as she'd been to Mexico. Not me, but my brother. He told the teacher last night my family ate beaver for dinner. I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this, and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She chewed them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper, and he had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although my brother was telling the truth, he told me later that he did say that for the effect, disrupting the class. My friend is really quiet. He doesn't really talk unless talked to. He's really cool though, and has some things he enjoys doing. Literally the second year I knew him, the teacher asked this, and he said he's a professional bowler with a 300 best, and I was like, why haven't you told me this? That's amazing. I guess it just never came up. Haha. Knew him for a whole year and never knew that. Had students, aged 11, sharing strategies for dealing with difficult emotions, one at a time in a big circle. One girl talked about digging her nails into her face whenever she was feeling stressed or anxious, and I had to explain to the class why self-harm was not a good coping strategy. I've had my hand up a sheep's bum, shocked me slightly. Child of a farming family, helping with lambing season. Someone in a class once told everyone about how his grandparents were arrested for keeping a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young, but he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yup. Fun fact. Edit. I'm not a teacher. This person who told the story was in a class with me as a young adult. I have 2 thumbs on this hand. I'm raising cockroaches in my closet to sell to the reptile shop. Edit to say thanks for the silver. I want to clarify that these quotes come from different kids, but it's definitely more entertaining to imagine them being the same. Also, I learned so much about cockroach raising from the comments. I wish I had asked more follow-up questions at the time. In my psychology class, we were talking about the early signs of serial killers, and the quietest girl who never spoke told the story of when she lived in Chicago. She had a friend around 5th grade who would always stomp on baby birds and once put his hamster in the microwave. Well, his parents were having difficulty keeping up with his antics, so they sent him to his grandmother's, who he promptly stabbed to death when she woke him up for school. So that was interesting. A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people working and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his passion was wandering. He dropped out like 2 months later. I'm a teacher from the UK, form tutor to a year 7 class, 11-year-olds. To get to know each other on the first day I had them take it in turns to say their name, which primary school they've come from, and an interesting fact, like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in the class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit, and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asks her for a fun fact, and she said I like to watch people get cut open. She obviously said it for effect, but she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. Not a teacher, but on the first day of 9th grade we had to form a circle and say one thing about ourselves that we thought was unique. When it was this dude's turn, let's call him Mike, Mike stands up and says in a really serious tone goes, "My mom and dad grow weed." His house got raided the next day and his dad got arrested SMH. I don't ask for a fun fact, but on the first day I always ask, what's your most recent obsession? Low stakes, building affinity networks, etc. etc. In my first semester, a student said air, as in oxygen. Even though I'm a professor, nothing that's ever been revealed by this question has ever been as awkward or uncomfortable as an occasion that happened when I was still a student. This was when I was in my MFA program for creative writing. If you've never been in an art program before, it probably won't surprise you to learn that they can attract some weird personalities. It was the first day of a fiction workshop and the professor decided that he wanted us to all share something interesting about ourselves, and for some reason, one girl, Ashley, decided that this would be a good opportunity for her to tell us about her long history of drug abuse and the equally long period of mental psychosis she went through as a result of it. She didn't do this as a quick answer either, but as a long drawn out list of every single drug she had ever experimented with, followed by a catalog of every single delusion she suffered as a result. The only one I can remember now is that at one point she became convinced she was a millionaire and her family was hiding her money from her. All of this was delivered in a monotone monologue with her eyes glazed over that lasted at least 5 minutes, which was met at the end with a long, awkward silence before the professor said, well, that was definitely something interesting, and moved on to the next person. One guy, I love rape. Sometimes I rape. Sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to rape. Some of my favorite rappers include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite rape song is English Was Not His First Language. He had us in the first half, not gonna lie. Edited to add the continuation and make it clear everyone figured out what he meant once he started listed the famous rappers. I'm not a teacher, but back when I was 16 I was kicked out of class for answering I set my balls on fire and swing them around for people's entertainment. Even though the rest of my class confirmed it was true, I still do it sometimes. Thank you for watching. Tell me which one was your favorite. Like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more. The next video will be even more interesting. You are a legend.